Hello there, my name is Martin Henley. This is the Effective Marketing YouTube channel. And if you've spent a second here, you will know that I am on a mission to get you everything you need to be successful in your business. Now, as far as I know, the only way for you to be successful in your business is through your sales and marketing, and for you to be as effective and efficient with your sales and marketing as possible. So not only here am I giving you the marketing news, I'm giving you everything I know about marketing, and I am extracting everything I possibly can from anyone who will possibly speak to me about marketing, all with the intention of giving you the knowledge, the motivation, the confidence to go and be much more successful in your business. Now, today's guest has experience going back to 1990, marketing experience going back to 1990, when she was an account executive with Saatchi & Saatchi. She has run her own marketing business for almost 20 years. She is a course director with the Chartered Institute of Marketing. She is the author of 5 books: Sustainable Marketing, Get Social, The Myths of Social Media Marketing, and 2 Businesses of Being Social. She is the host of a podcast entitled Can Marketing Save the Planet? I wonder if it can. She has also debated in the House of Commons about how messed up marketing is. I can't imagine a better guest for this podcast than Michelle Carvill. Michelle, how are you?
I'm really well, Martin. Thanks for having me here.
You must be exhausted from having done all of that stuff.
Well, for me, I like to stay busy. I've got a busy mind, and I spin a few plates. It's interesting. That is my background as a marketer, but I also run a social enterprise to do with preventative healthcare, and I'm also a yoga teacher. So maybe that's what gives me the energy and the grounded. Um, that grounded aspect of that's required to kind of keep you focused and aligned with everything that you're doing. So yeah, so a few things going on, but I like it. It's the way it's the way it's always been.
Okay, good. I like it as well. You're about 1,000 times busier than I am. So maybe some weird quirk of the universe, you're getting my energy. Maybe that's what's going on. Maybe you're getting extra energy from other places. I think yoga gives you energy. I think it does. And
Sure
also, I
does.
think there's something about being busy that gives you energy. As you slow down, you get less energy, and so
Yeah,
maybe that's the way it works.
yeah.
We're not here to talk about energy, but we are all impressed, I think, with the amount of energy you must have. That's cool. So much to talk about. I'm glad somebody in the House of Commons has a sense of how messed up marketing might be, at least. Maybe we can touch on that. I've been wanting to have a conversation, not quite about the sustainability of marketing, but something about kind of the morality of marketing. I'm kind of interested because it seems to me that there's a moral thread running through marketing, um, like lots of moral threads running through marketing. Um, I think that people don't like marketing. They don't want to be doing it, is my experience. They feel like it's a dirty business. I've been dying to have this conversation for the longest time. But we do have a structure that we'll adhere to. So as you know, there are only 5 questions. The first question is how your specialist subject today is this sustainable marketing, because it could be a number of things.
We can talk just marketing, because if you're talking about businesses, I suppose businesses being successful, sustainable marketing is going to be important for all businesses because any business of any shape or size is going to have to be thinking about their net zero targets. And increasingly, regardless of whether you're a one man band or a, small business, micro business, larger business, global business, organizations are going to be enforced, some of them are already enforced, to report about the work that they are doing towards certain global and local targets with regards to carbon footprints, etc., etc. And of course, maybe, for some smaller businesses, I mean, I did a podcast recently with Adam Bastock of Small 99, who works with very micro businesses, small businesses who are confused about this landscape, who don't really understand what is net zero, what does it mean, what does it mean for my business. I don't manufacture plastic, I'm a consultant, so what does it mean? And there is a lot of confusion out there. Like 86% of businesses have no idea about what they need to be doing with regards to their business or their communications, um, with regards to net zero and how they move forward with that. So, from a marketing perspective, businesses are going to be considered as to who's going to be working with who. When we think about business development, which again, what is marketing? Is it business development? Is it just communications? Is it brand? Is it strategy? Is it internal comms? Is it extra? I mean, this is where marketing, where does it stop, where does it start? um, Businesses need to kind of be aware of the responsibility they have in how they're communicating, but also businesses are going to be selecting other businesses to partner with based on how credible or how aware or how prepared they are for this net positive future. So all businesses really, regardless of whether you position it as marketing, all businesses need to be thinking about the role they play in reducing their carbon footprints, working towards net zero, and how they communicate that, and both internally to their teams, but also externally to their clients.
Okay, good. Let's go. Well, let's just see where the conversation takes us. Let's go with a sustainable theme, shall we? We'll say
Okay.
sustainable is your specialist subject, and then we'll go with the theme because I've just had about 8,000 questions pop into my head while you've been talking. So we're not going to run out of things to talk about. Maybe we could have another conversation in 4, 5, 6 months, maybe about another aspect or another thing. Okay, so the 5 questions then, very simply, how are you qualified to talk to us about sustainable marketing? Who do you work with? How do you add value in their lives? What is your recommendation for people who want to get better at sustainable marketing? What should people read? And who can you throw under the bus who might enjoy or at least endure to have a conversation like this with me? So those are the 5 questions. So question number 1, how are you qualified to talk to us about sustainable marketing?
Okay, so I'm not a climate scientist, I'm not a sustainability expert, even though I suppose I'm learning more and more about that over the years. But I'm a marketer, and as a marketer, I've been increasingly concerned about the role that marketing plays in behaviors of consumers. So, marketing really, if you think about what is the role of marketing, marketing traditionally is to understand the needs of the audience and to deliver solutions, to deliver products and services that meet their needs. It's also the role to kind of do the investigative research and kind of be innovative and come up with things that people maybe don't even know they need. And of course, over the years, all of this activity, that whether it's at strategic level, brand level, whether it's at application, tactical level, like, helping people click buttons faster and be able to convert quicker online, and all of the optimization techniques that again fall into kind of search marketing and online marketing in one way or another, have all kind of driven these unprecedented levels of consumption. I mean, we don't even think about what we buy now. We just, everything is convenient. And it's the role of marketing has been kind of, to encourage people to have more, to get more, to do more, to, throw away if something's broken, oh, don't worry about it, we'll just, get a new one. We've lost that kind of over the last 50 years. We've really, as the kind of pace of technology and manufacturing and global markets has been eradicated, these barriers have been eradicated, we're able to very quickly get something delivered from China or India which is, the labor costs have been forced down. So it's cheap and it's quick and it's easy. And as consumers, we don't even think about it. We don't even think about it. I'm thirsty. I just want a drink. We'll go and pick up that plastic bottle of water and drink it without really any consideration of the fact that that plastic bottle will, what are you going to do with that plastic bottle? It may have a recycling label on it, but only 9% of any plastic in the world has ever been recycled. So, we don't realize these things. We've just been, our consumption levels have just been, convenience at any cost. And marketing has driven a lot of that. The marketers are out there driving that. And for me as a marketer, helping businesses all my life to get more, do more, have more, I've always had this kind of level of discomfort with, whoa, this, where does this stop?
Okay, good. I've had that level of discomfort as well, like maybe more than that. I've got a theory. What you'll learn about me, Michelle, is I've got a whole head full of theories and issues. So I've got a theory about the environment. And it seems to me that there was a time, probably just before the Industrial Revolution,
Yeah.
where we were all environmentalists, because we were all living in our environment and we were all dependent on our environment, but also we were all exposed to our environment. Whereas what's happened in whatever that is, those 150 years, is now we've all been moved into and cosseted in these little boxes that we live in. And we are bombarded all the time with entertainment. There's no time in the day where we're not entertained. Literally, if I stop for a minute, I probably have my phone out and I am being entertained by
Mm.
some video content or some music or whatever it might be. So it feels to me, not even in the last 50 years maybe, or clearly it's accelerated in the last 50 years, but it feels to me like in the last 150 years, we have been entirely removed from our environment. And I
Mm.
think that has the effect of, like, wherever I go in the world, the people who are closest to the environment are the
Yeah.
happiest people I meet. So it seems to me that this has an effect on our well-being, but also, like, to be an environmentalist to me seems to be an insane thing to even. We should. I mean,
Yeah.
without wanting to get too meta about it, we are all in our environment, but the
Yeah.
environment. So to be interested in the environment seems to me to be the most stupid thing, because clearly we are all dependent on our environment,
Yeah.
but maybe we're just not so exposed to our environment anymore, and maybe that's the issue.
Yeah. And so, and so where marketing comes into that is, if you say that entertainment where you turn on the Netflix or you're on the TV before Netflix was created, and you're looking at ads or you're watching a TV program or you're picking up your phone and you're being bombarded with entertainment videos, ads, messaging, all of that noise, as you rightly say, is kind of almost disengaging us from the things that really matter. And the things that really matter are really simple, aren't they? That if we think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we need food, we need shelter, and those simple aspects. However, you're right. I don't know what's been the cause of that disconnection, but it feels like we have become disconnected, and that's probably because we've just been saturated with this noise. And again, marketing has been played a big role in that saturation of noise and messaging. And of course, it's been encouraged because if you think about, I mean, it's enormous, really, when you dive into this subject, because when you think about capitalism, this then it then starts to rack up all of those aspects about just what are we doing? How are we measuring success? And of course, success has been focused on financial outcomes. That's been it. The more money you can drive, the more profitable you will be, ticking the box, and that is success, regardless of whether you're dropping dead at 55 or 60, from a heart attack of working yourself into the ground, regardless of whether or not you are destroying natural habitats or moving indigenous people from, beautiful landscapes that they've been nurturing and looking after for centuries. All of those aspects, we don't even, like you say, we don't even think about it. And if you do think about it, you're an environmentalist. You're not a human being. It's a different thing. But actually, we all need to be aware and responsible, and we've become completely disconnected. We've become just almost reprogrammed into this: I need to have more, I need to get more, because that is what is successful. I mean, I think it starts with education. I think you only have to look at the education system, and you're kind of, it's now looking at that with new eyes, having two children, one having gone through it and going through it, and the other one, just about to do a GCSEs. You do kind of think this is all bonkers. However, however, those are things that once you start to look into this area, or just not to look into this area, you become more aware, more awakened, I think, as to what is really going on. That it becomes hugely, hugely frustrating. And so, I suppose in my world, I can't go off and do something that is so different from who I am and what I am, and what I know. But what I can do is almost galvanize my experience, my understanding, my skills, and bring them together to think, okay, so what can I do in the world to encourage and help others to be more responsible and be more aware of the role that they are playing, and to shift behavior change so that there is that kind of ripple effect that that because we've all, that kind of the butterfly effect. If we do one small thing over here, it has an immense impact somewhere else. How do we bring that connection back to people? And that's where I think marketing used responsibly has a significant role to play, a really important and a really powerful role to play. I mean, there are 10.6 million marketers on the planet, approximately. And if every single one of those marketers was behaving responsibly, was educated and aware, and connected to, wow, I'm really concerned about the role that we're playing here, but I know that I can do something about this, that would be a significantly powerful movement of of not just education, but also influence.
Good. Amazing. Good. I think it is industrialization that started, and then
Mm,
whatever phase of industrialization we're in now, which kind of ties in with capitalism. And I want to talk about. Sometimes I talk about being a revolutionary communist on this podcast, which is a mistake. You can't really be a marketer and a revolutionary communist. But where the primary motivation is to make profit, to generate capital, then I think alongside industrialization, it gets us to where we kind of are now. Are
mm,
we on the third industrial revolution or the fourth
I think
industrial, the
so. I think it's
technological,
fourth. Yep,
whatever
yep.
it is? Sustainable. So that's what marketing is it not? Is generating. I mean, this is my definition, and you've caused me to question it now, where I'm saying that I define marketing as, I'm not allowed to say finding customers anymore because Barnaby Winter told me off for that. So it's about attracting customers, attracting and keeping customers profitably. Let's say that's what marketing is. But there's the profit in that, which is the spare.
Mm,
So it's almost like marketing is about achieving an excess. So does that not make sustainable marketing an oxymoron? So does it
yeah,
not actually make sense?
yeah. It's almost, because to be sustainable, I mean, it again, it comes back to, I think it just comes back to almost semantics. Um, and putting a line in the sand as to what do we mean by sustainable marketing,
Yes.
because you're right, because one would say, well, if marketing is all about driving more profitability, if you're making that more sustainable, then you are just encouraging that organization to do more for longer, and make that more sustainable, but they may be doing harmful things. So when we talk about sustainable marketing, we talk about responsible marketing. It's almost a and what we mean by that is that there needs to be consideration of not just profit, but you need to be balancing purpose, people, and the planet with your profit. So when we talk about sustainable marketing, how to drive profits with purpose. So the purpose piece is that balance of, it isn't just, profitability and having profits is necessary for any business to be sustainable. However, it's what you do with those profits. If those profits, and it's also how you've acquired those profits. If you've squeezed your supply chain to create negative behavior and unfair activity, and you don't really care about what's going on in the supply chain, you don't really care about whether or not the people are being paid fairly, you don't really care about whether or not that deforestation aspect is happening just so you can drive more profitability. That is where it becomes problematic. That's where it becomes irresponsible, because you are utilizing resources in a way that just isn't fair or just, to absolutely mine as much profitability out of that as you possibly can. And what we're saying with responsible, sustainable marketing is that it's just, you are considering driving profitability, but also considering being fair and just with people, and the health and the well-being of those people, and also you're considering the planet. It's not your resource to be taking what you want from. It isn't. You don't have that right to be able to do that at any cost. And so what we're saying is that you balance profitability with people, planet, and the purpose piece is that you're doing more than just driving profitability. You're driving profitability in a way that is good for people, good for the planet, and good for profits. It isn't just all about good for profits and shareholders. It's that balance across the line.
Good. Okay. And for me, this sustainable thing kind of has two layers. So sustainable, as in, can you sustain this business without damaging the planet unnecessarily?
Mhm.
Obviously, that's the main one. But I think there's something also about what can you sustain as a business, or what can you sustain as a marketer. So
Yeah.
the first thing that occurs to me, or occurred to me, when you very graciously accepted the invitation to come, is I'm desperate to have this conversation. But the other thing that goes on is that immediately you are in business, you are, what, I don't know what the trope is. It's something like, if you're green, you're growing; if you're brown, you're dying, or whatever it is. So there is this almost there's this charge always. You have to be growing, 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 having more staff, having more premises, having more customers, having more cars, having more. So um, it's almost like if you're not exceeding, if you're not unsustainable, then it goes against the premise of being a business owner. Does that make sense? I mean, I
It,
felt that
yeah.
when I started my business.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of does, but then I think that's because we've been conditioned to think that that's what success looks like. This once upon a time, my business, Carvill Creative, was a full service agency, and we had search and paid and copywriters and people doing email marketing, and to be honest, Martin, it became I just wasn't enjoying it. It was kind of like all I'm doing is managing people and headaches. And the more sometimes you have and get, and the more problems that that you kind of have to encounter and overcome. And so I think that there is this, and that's just a microcosm of what happens. But what we do is we push through that. Why? Oh, because it's more profitable. Is it? Is it more enjoyable? Is it what you wanted? Is it, what are you going to do with, I mean, y- y- do we need another car? Do we need another this? Do we need, and again, I think it's this preconditioning, which marketing has supported, that success is that you have more. And it isn't about having more. It's often about reducing things, reducing down things, simplifying things, um, so that you just have enough and you're happy with what you've got, because there isn't this trajectory that, this hockey stick of growth. Where, these are kind of business school principles that, and this is what a successful business looks like, that we kind of need to be rethinking. And we need to be rethinking it in a number of ways, because it isn't and this is where it's really tricky for kind of like the huge organizations with 170,000 employees to be rethinking how they reshape and restructure and almost reverse into a more sustainable, responsible business, because that's like turning a tanker. They haven't set out as a small independent startup with like a B corporation, which is focused on, and some B corporations are enormous, but that is focused on wanting to balance that triple bottom line from the get go. They haven't set out like that, so they're having to rethink. And of course, there is a responsibility that comes with, well, if we reduce things, does that mean we reduce our people? Does that mean there is a responsibility around ensuring that everybody isn't just, thrown off the cliff just because we're rethinking the strategy. So I'm not saying it's a simple endeavor, but it is one that all businesses are facing, because there are only, we can't continue with the levels of consumption that we have. We can't continue with that measurement of success that we have. I mean, even investors now, who have always been focused on profitability, profitability for shareholders, they're asking organizations to drive a different agenda, to be balancing their profits with people and planet, and to be evidencing that in their sustainable reporting. So it is slowly, I think, going to start to change the structure as to what the measure of success looks like commercially, and that will trickle down, I think, to individuals. And just on that, back to the individuals, do I need more cars? Do I need more this? Do I need more that? The the great reset that came about because of COVID. I mean, how many, we've now seen the great resignation. We've now seen people saying, no, I don't want to work like that. I want to work on my terms. I don't need that stuff. I'm happy to take the hit and not have the big salary, because I actually enjoyed my life and we had everything that we needed just doing that. So once people get an element and a taster of how it feels to take your foot off the pedal, how it feels to feel as if you're doing something for yourself and something that's a bit more worthwhile, and you're off that treadmill of this hamster wheel that we've been on for years and years, about get more, have more, get more, have more. That is how we measure success. People have that time to reflect and think and experience a difference, then change comes about. I'm not saying it's going to be quick. COVID-19 was an enormous pause, an unprecedented pause, and it did and has still had an impact with regards to the future of work, and indeed what people think about businesses. We've seen more people than ever setting up on their own, just so they can have a little lifestyle business and do what they need to do. Nobody, I don't, that idea of having to go out and grow an empire because that is what success is, that's a headache.
more than a headache, that's a stress that is causing people to be, well, I think it's causing people to fail. I mean, my own experience was I wanted to take over the world. I was convinced I was going to take over the world. And I started running, and then I had to keep running, and then I had to keep leaping because these
Yeah,
opportunities would come along. And it's like, if I don't do this now, when will I be able to do it? And I ran the effective marketing company properly for 9 years. I produced a video, the most successful video I've ever produced. It's had 600,000 views. The worst comment I had was about how sick I looked, how properly
mm,
sick I looked. And only looking back now, I'm not saying I look like a Adonis now, but only looking back now, I see that I was sick because I'd done that for 14 or 15 hours a day.
yeah,
And I was doing it on the expectation, my expectation, it was never great for me. I was never making huge amounts of, but that would always come. Like if I just do the next thing and take the next step and all of this stuff. So the only thing I would disagree with what you said is what are people doing with all these profits? My experience working with lots and lots of small businesses is there are no huge profits. So they're
yeah,
doing all of this stress and this anxiety and this illness actually for no real benefit for themselves, you know?
yeah,
So I would say this isn't this so this definitely operates on the two levels. What's good for the health of the planet, what's good for the health of the business owner. That's kind of what I'm
yeah,
interested in because there is this weird expectation in society where you have to break yourself for work. And most of
yeah,
the people that I'm speaking to like this are people like you and I who've stepped away and said, okay, no, less is much, much more. You know, not
yeah,
just more, but much, much more. Actually, less is everything, you know.
yeah,
Picking and choosing what you get involved in, working out what you actually need, and working to that is a much healthier approach to being in business. But I
yeah.
don't think that's the case for the multitude of people. Sorry,
No,
there's
I
two
agree.
things. There's two things I disagree with you on, I'm afraid. Did I tell you
Good.
this was going to be challenging?
I just,
So
I
the
don't
other
like yes
thing
people.
is that I don't think there's going to be a top-down change. I
Mm,
think there is something about the mechanics of corporations. Like you say, it's like turning a juggernaut. I think it's like turning a wall. It's never
mm,
going to turn, you know, because that institutionalized kind of greed like nobody in the entire organization feels it. Do you know what I mean? Because they are
yeah,
just going through the motions of what's expected, all the way up to Jeff Bezos, bless him, when he
yeah,
got off that rocket and said, I want to thank everyone who works for Amazon, everyone who's ever bought from Amazon, because you paid for this. How can
yeah,
you be so far removed from reality that you think that's what the world wants to hear in that situation? That there's a single Amazon employee who is probably working three jobs, that there's a single
yeah,
Amazon customer that's like, oh, well, we did it all for you, Jeff. Well done. You know,
yeah,
so I don't think it's going to come top down. I don't think it's going to come corporations down. I think it's going to go person up. There needs
yeah,
to be a revolution in people's minds where
yeah,
they decide that less is more for themselves. Now,
yeah.
there's layers to this. My mind is going at about a million miles an hour.
Yeah,
Um,
there is layers, and and I suppose this is where you could get into the so my layer is the marketers because
right.
I so that's where I've selected, that's I am a marketer. I get it. I've run my own business, so I get that too. But I've also worked with large corporations, and I understand how um, almost oppressed marketers can feel within a large organization. For years, I've heard, the reason I wrote Get Social, social media strategy and tactics for leaders, was because for years, 10 years of working with marketing teams, I'd heard them saying, Michelle, we get it. We get it. We understand this. But, the guys at the top just think social media is all about posting pictures of your breakfast. That is where they still are with this. We can't get the budgets, we can't get the resource, we can't get the buy-in. It's, we're showcasing and saying that this is what we need to be doing, and nobody's taking it seriously. So that was really the catalyst for helping leaders to understand, look, guys, wake up. And of course, I do think that shouting upwards as a marketer, gathering the information, speaking to the key stakeholders, talking to customers, talking to employees, talking to understanding the competitive landscape, understanding whether you're a small, business or you're a marketer within a large business, understanding the business case and then saying, look, we need to be doing something about this because there is this regulation, there is this is happening with our competitors. People are starting to ask about our ethical stance or how focused we are on net zero or what our targets are, and all of those aspects. It's going to it is going to start to pinch. It's going to start to pinch because even though you say it's not going to be top down, the governments, and I agree with you, they have set some legislation around around what organizations need to do, what countries need to do by a certain time, these net zero targets. We all have to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions that are going off into the planet, otherwise we're going to heat up the planet to levels that are totally unsustainable for human beings to continue to live in the way that we live right now. And if we carry on and we don't cool it down, we're really looking at kind of Armageddon scenarios. So the practicalities are that, we've got this, we can talk about business and we can talk about whether or not there's going to be societal change. We can talk about whether there's going to be, the planet isn't listening to those conversations. The planet's just getting on and getting hotter and hotter and more destructive. And I love that saying by, I think it's Alan Jope, the now CEO of Unilever. Nobody's going to be interested in buying or selling anything in a world that is on fire or underwater. And I think, it sounds dramatic, but it's kind of, come on, let's get some perspective here as to what we all need to be doing around the world globally, every single one of us, in affecting responsible change. And if you're a business owner, there's something you will need to be doing around your net zero commitments or changing, even if it's just changing the light bulbs. There's so many tiny little things you can do to switch up your energy provider, and there's loads of tiny things you can do. But we all need to be driving some kind of change. So I agree with you from, there are layers and layers and layers and layers. But what happened to me when I wrote sustainable marketing and I did all the research for sustainable marketing was that it opened my eyes and it educated me in areas that I was not even thinking about as a business owner. Hadn't even thought about it. Just on my, even though I'm not on the treadmill and I've kind of got that, I've stepped back and I'm grounded and I've decided to do the things I want to do in my way so that it balances with my life. And, my work is my life. My life is my work. There is no work-life balance. It's just integrated. It's who I am. But even when I was doing all of that, I saw things, and my intention is to educate marketers to see things too, and not just marketers, business owners to see things too, because once you've seen it and once you're aware, you can't unsee it. And ignorance is bliss. You can stick your head in the sand and forget that there's all this stuff going on around you. Fine, carry on, but it's not going to be sustainable. And so that is where I decided to stick the kind of, stick in the stand and say, look, what can I do? Who can I influence? Marketers. I can talk to marketers. We can try and shift how marketers think, how they are empowered within their organizations to do something about this. And as individuals, if they're not cutting through, take your voice away and get into an organization where you are heard and you can make a difference, because it's those organizations, if we all kind of come out of this positively, that are going to be the successful ones. Those that were kind of, blinkered and saying this is nonsense, let's just carry on regardless, and just don't get their act together, will not survive. It's as simple as that. They will not survive.
Wow. Okay. I'm an environmentalist. I spend, like, what I do for fun, I don't know if you can see, is I take photographs in the surf.
Beautiful.
So I spend, when there's surf, I spend, I don't know, 30 or 40 hours a month, 11 foot deep in water. Um, so I spend time in the environment and I care about the
Mm.
environment and I enjoy the environment. So I like taking photographs. So I like going out into landscapes and things like that. One of the things that concerns me is that these environmental issues have also been marketed.
Oh yeah.
And it seems, well, oh my God, it seems to me, here's what I think. I don't think that global warming is the most immediate environmental threat to human life on this planet. In fact, I know it's not, because we know that millions of people die every year from air pollution,
Air
and
pollution.
millions of people die from water pollution, and habitats, like human habitats, are being lost to the sand issue. I don't know if you know about the sand issue, but essentially they're dredging sand from around islands. Islands are disappearing into the sea for use in Saudi Arabia to build their palm trees
Build.
thing, or in
Yeah.
Singapore to build more shopping malls.
Yeah.
All of these acts of industrial terrorism are going on all day, every day. And
Yep.
my feeling is that they are all put into the shade by this global warming issue. Now, if we were to fix those little things, they would all contribute to the bigger issue
Yeah.
positively,
Yeah.
but they don't. It astounds me how removed from the environment or reality people are. It astounds me um, how. So let's take a very modern, like, just as an example. I don't want this to get political. I'm not Ukrainian.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
expect you to be Russian or whatever. But the very fact that people are suggesting that we should um, have a no-fly zone over Ukraine, for example, that we should actively be involved in um, taking Russian planes out of the sky when Russia are a nuclear power and we are a nuclear power, it blows my mind. But people are advocating, and sensible, but not sensible, but leaders are advocating this thing. And it seems to me that that's probably the very best current example of
Mm.
how removed from reality people are and how little they must care. Because, like, the whole Black Lives Matter thing kicked off last year,
Yep.
but I think it's fairly well known, but that there are more people in slavery right now than there ever were during the times of slavery in Western cultures. People don't care. They want to go to Primark and they want to get a pair of jeans for £4 or
Yeah.
whatever it is, you know?
Yeah. But
So,
is it that? Yeah. I was
yeah,
going to
no,
say,
you
is it
go.
that? I was going to say, is it that they don't care, or is it again? Is it that it's almost like, is it that they don't know, you know, or is it that they're just not being made aware? Because it's, you know, you're right, 7 million people die every year of air pollution, and yet, you know, we all went crazy when it was, you know, 4 million people were dying of COVID, and all of this work was activated to eradicate. Well, of course, it could have been a whole lot worse, I suppose. But yes, but those statistics have been around for years and years and years. You know, it's not a one-off thing. Is it that they don't care, or is it that they don't know? Is it that ignorance is bliss? Is it that the Primarks of this world, you know, this is where it comes back to who's responsible for what. It's
Yes.
almost like, it's like, you know, let's take plastic bags for simplicity, because it's just a gets on my nerves. Why do supermarkets even have plastic bags that people can buy? Okay, if every supermarket around the world said we do, and many of them don't anyway, but if every supermarket said we do, it was never a thing. You know, you do not supply plastic bags. I think when I was growing up, there were no plastic bags. You used to go around the shop with your basket. You'd get to the end and you'd go into your own bag that you'd brought to the shop, and then you'd go home. Um, Pretty much, I think all of us have the ability. We've got arms. We could put stuff in our arms. We could, make lots of different things if there were no bags, but there are bags. We have reusable bags coming out of our reusable bags. But the challenge is that the grocers will say, "Oh, we have to supply the plastic bags, but we'll charge for them." Why do you have to supply the plastic bags? Because if people come shopping and there isn't a plastic bag, then they will go to another shop that does give them a plastic bag. So there is this element of, okay, well, all grocers get together and agree very simply that
Yeah.
none of you are supplying plastic bags. And of course, that eradicates tons of plastic issues out of, I mean, it's not a big part of it, but it is a considerable part of it. If they then all collaborated, and it comes back to this communication piece. It comes back to people being aware. It comes back to I mean, this is where you could say, going back to the Ukraine, this is where communication again, it all comes back to communication, and awareness of how problems can be solved collectively. And we showed that with COVID-19, how quickly we mobilized around the world globally to find solutions, to eradicate the disease, to mitigate death, to it didn't do much for pollution and other things, but I suppose priorities at that time were lives, and so there is this opportunity for everybody to mobilize together. The individual is very powerful because when individuals come together and can unite and communicate and collaborate, it's hyper powerful. And that's what needs to happen with the climate, with the environment. It's not just climate change. You're absolutely right, Martin. There are enormous aspects. I always look at the United Nations societal so sustainable development goals, and there are 17 of those, and they do cover things like slavery. They do cover the environment, above water, below water, and they are looking at the entirety of all of the key considerations. It's probably not perfect. It's not a perfect framework, but it's a great framework as a starting point. I mean, if every organization was looking at those United Nations societal development goals and sustainable development goals and saying, okay, what does my business do in the world, and what do I care about, or what does our business purport to care about, and what do we really care about? What do we really want to be known for and seen as? Why do we really exist? Do we really exist just to drive profit at any cost? Because I don't think many people would want to work with an organization nowadays that could rightly say, our mission statement is to drive profit at any cost. We don't care about who it hurts or damages in the process. We are just all about the profit so that we can feed people more money so they can buy more cars. You know, that is I hope vastly changing. And as consumer consciousness is rising, as the younger generations, they're the first generation that is saying, the Gen Zs are saying that they are the first generation saying that they want to work with purpose driven organizations. They're ready to take a hit commercially. They'll work for lower wages if that's necessary to support an organization that is purpose driven. Employees are also that are within purpose driven organizations 53% more productive because they jump out of bed and they love what they do. They're not part of the disconnected, disengaged employees that cost the world the UK 27 billion a year because people are disconnected from the work that they do because it isn't part of their values. It doesn't make them feel good about their lives or themselves. And so there's a great opportunity for businesses to be driving profits with purpose. But as you said, it isn't just about marketing and campaigning the environment, and greenwashing and almost turning a campaign. It's about genuinely, with your heart and soul as that organization, at the heart and soul of that organization, really reflecting genuinely and saying, okay, maybe we were all about the profits. But right now, we have to kind of wake up and understand that that is not a sustainable business model. The sustainable business model is now one where we have to be considering what our customers feel and think, what our employees feel and think, what's going on in the planet, what's happening with the investor world, and to be, because even in the investor world, and people might be saying, well, investors are never going to be interested in my business, but banks might be. If you want a bank a loan down the line to, create a new product or do some innovations or extend your premises, or or something, then those banks are also going to be asking for those same kind of sustainable and environmental and social governance credibility factors that large investors are looking for, because it just cascades down. So you're right, it shouldn't be a campaign. It should be really coming from that sense of, who are we? Why do we exist? What is it that we're doing in the world? There were two very powerful questions that I read in an article when I was researching sustainable marketing, how to drive profits with purpose, and it was in a Harvard Business article, and I printed them out on my wall, because it was kind of like, why do we exist? And would the world be a better place if we didn't? And I think those are two very important questions for any organization and individual to be thinking about, as to, so what are we going to do about that if the answer is nothing? Because we all can be driving positive change with regards to the environment, with regards to the social aspects as well. This interconnectedness of all of us is fundamentally important, and if we pull together, then we can really bring about so much positive change. But individually, we're going to have to be educated and aware and motivated to say, okay, what can I do in my situation? Which is exactly what came back to me when I wrote that book. And I just thought, I don't feel comfortable just carrying on as a digital consultant, digital marketer, teaching people about how to drive more sales through their social media strategy or digital strategy. There's got to be more to it than that now for me. And that is now about, my business still does that. And we do work with organizations that are focused on their sustainable agenda and driving a more environmentally positive footprint, which is positive. And they are now my new clients. Anybody that comes on board will have to meet that criteria for me. They are the types of people we want to now work with, to help them develop and to get their message out so that they can do more good in the world. So that is the kind of full circle of what happened to me. And I believe that once educated and aware, it can happen to other marketers, who can then either start shouting up to the board, or shouting out to their audiences about why things need to change, and then driving that behavioral change so that we can bring around some impact.
Okay, good. Are you happy to have a challenging conversation before I get really challenging? Or
Yeah, no, yeah, cool.
okay, good. So the thing you say about people don't want to deal with businesses that aren't sustainable, that aren't taking care of the planet, and I would say they don't care, because the most successful business on the planet is Amazon, and I have never received a package from Amazon in a box that wasn't at least 15 times bigger than it needs to be. So that is about the materials that go into the box. It's about the
Yep.
ship, the space that it takes up on the container. It's, so that is environmentally not even irresponsible, or not even stupid, willfully environmentally damaging. Like, you're so clever, put things in the right size boxes, at least, just do that one thing. So that's one example. This thing, I know that this thing has lithium that was mined in Africa,
Mm.
most
Yeah.
likely by children. And there are billions of these on the planet. So, I'm sorry, I'm giving myself that is how willfully ignorant people are prepared to be. Me, I'm saying this to you right now, and I still have this, and this
Yep.
is 3 years old, and I'm expecting the battery or something to go anytime now, and I will be in the shop buying another one. So I'm saying it to you. I'm
Yeah.
telling you the ugliness of this situation, and I'm still going to do it. So
Yeah.
that is how
Yeah.
entrenched. That is how. Yeah, I think that I
It,
want to
it's
say
very,
almost like indoctrinated
yeah,
we are,
programmed.
programmed, 100%
Programmed.
programmed.
Yeah, we're programmed, and that's because, and this is, and you're right, you're absolutely right, and that's what I said right at the very beginning. It's convenience at any cost. If it's convenient to do it, we do it, and marketing has driven a lot of that, because of course we all want the latest iPhone, because that's got, why, there is Fairphone, where you can, literally, it's a modular phone, and you can do this. I know about that phone, but because my current phone hasn't broken down yet, I'm the best thing we can do as consumers is keep the goods that we've got for as long as we've got them. That is the best thing that we can do. The majority of the carbon, the majority of the impact, as you rightly said, in a mobile phone, in an iPhone, happens, and it's like something like 93% of the impact happens during the manufacturing process. The next bit is that 7% is then over to us, the consumer. So for us to mitigate and offset what has happened in the manufacturing process, because we're now taking the responsibility for that manufacturing process, we keep those phones for as long as we can. And of course, what we know is that all of a sudden, after so many years, those phones seem to kind of stop working, don't they?
What do
Quite,
they call
quite
that? Planned
incredibly.
obsolescence, is
Planned
that?
obsolescence. Yeah, planned
Yes.
obsolescence. And so, and so, is that ethical? No. You know, does that make me feel, warm and positive about Apple as a brand? No. Do we still have Apple iPhones in our household? Yes. You know,
Are people
and
dying in the
and
production of iPhones? Yes.
yes, yeah,
They're policide, like suicides
possibly.
in these plants are, I don't know the actual numbers, but they're going on. And what they do to address the suicides is they take the opportunity away from people to commit suicide in the plant. They put netting up so they can't jump off the bit, or whatever it might
Oh my
be.
gosh.
So, I mean, this is
Ugh.
so
Yeah,
hideously disgusting. And I'll tell you, like, maybe this institutionalized greed that we're talking about
yeah.
really is a thing. A friend of mine used to run a coffee
Oh, it is.
business in Sumatra, and he was there. Like, he's quite an amazing guy. He was there for like 9 or 10 years, and he was researching where to buy. It's this. I don't know if you know about Luwak coffee, but basically the um, the coffee beans get consumed by the luwak, which is like a wild cat, and then they get excreted, and then they make this most amazing coffee. He was there for
Ah,
years researching the very best place to do this in like the noughties probably. So he was there when the corporations came in and bought up huge swathes of what was rainforest at the time, so that they could grow palm oil. And what he told
okay.
me would happen is that they would turn up, and the deal was that they could buy so much land, and then they would have to buy so much land that would be set aside. And if they didn't set this land aside, then they would pay a fine. And so what happened is the corporation would say, "How much is the fine?" And they would say, "It's X millions, billions, whatever it was."
Oh,
And
yeah.
they'd be like, "Okay, well, just pay that right now."
Mm.
So the ugliness of that is that's habitat, that's, some might argue, the lungs of the planet producing CO2
Yeah.
for us to breathe, for the sole purpose of producing palm oil to make us fat and addicted to unhealthy food. I mean, that's, I can't, other than
Yeah.
tobacco, like, can you imagine a less worthwhile, worthy, beneficial activity? Burning down
I know.
rainforests to make people fat, addicted to junk food and fat.
Yeah. So that they will buy more, have more, get more, you know. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Yeah, I know. And again, it's so you know, it's have we explored what goes on in you know, as a consumer, we just pick it off the shelves and we listen to the the labels. Sometimes, you know, we're now starting to look at the labels for fats and sugars and things like that. That's a relatively, you know, new thing. But we don't even think about it, Martin. That's what I'm saying. We don't think about these things. You're an environmentalist. You've taken time to study these things, to be concerned by these things, to make them a part of your life. That's the choice you've taken. For most people, it is head in the sand, haven't got a clue. I don't believe it's not really caring about it, because once people know what's going on, I mean, we talk about the plastic revolution and the plastic pollution has been going on for decades. It was only when David Attenborough showed the seas of floating plastic and turtles with, you know, straws up their noses and those kind of awful, you know, catastrophic images of and devastating images of what was going on because of plastic, and you could see all these brand labels floating around in those seas of plastic, that people actually started to say, whoa, I don't, you know, plastic, single-use plastic should be banned. And 75% of people are still saying they don't want single-use plastic. It's still around, but you know, more and more is being done about it, and more consumers are pushing back on it. But the challenge we have, of course, is that it's convenient. You go into that superstore and that supermarket, which of course we've been programmed to do. I remember a hypermarket opening up. You know, I grew up near Blackpool, and I remember this hypermarket coming, which was this enormous thing, which is now what we see. You know, every supermarket looks like this, but this was a big deal because all we'd ever had was little local shops, and this hypermarket arrived with everything that you could possibly ever need in a household under one roof. I mean, that didn't exist, and that was only in the what 70s. So in that time, that kind of the last what 50 years, we've seen that become mainstream. And of course, as consumers, we're programmed. You just go in and you pull it off the shelf. You do not think about how it's been made, where it was manufactured, who and what has gone into manufacturing this, why, what, you know, we just don't think about the backstory. And of course, what's starting to happen through digital technology and through social media particularly is that we're starting to see some of that backstory. Through television, we're starting to see some of that backstory. Through YouTube, you know, people can go and explore some of these challenges. Look what happened with the milk industry, you know, when those, you know, those insider kind of um, almost Louis Theroux style investigative journalism, and you know, or just people going in and understanding what was going on with you know, various aspects of the dairy industry. And once that's shown to people, like the Attenborough effect, people get emotive about it. And we did see a huge behavioral shift in people switching from lactose to milk alternatives because they became conscious that they didn't want a role to play in that industry. Now, does everybody make that shift? No, because not everybody's seen the documentary. Some people don't want to watch things like that because they don't want to change their lives, and they will actively say, I don't want to watch that because I love milk. You know, so I don't want anybody to upset me about what's going on. So there will always be individuals that, you know, for whatever reason, their programming is so static that they don't want to shift. But if those individuals didn't have a choice, if the grocers, when they went out, weren't stocking some of these elements where they weren't happy with the ethics of how that product was sourced, so that's not going into onto the shelves, we're not supporting that behavior because that doesn't fit with our values as a brand, then those organizations would have to go underground or stop producing. So you can see that it's a whole cycle of if it's there and it's convenient, we'll have it. So who's responsible? Is it the grocers? Is it the, the organizations that are supplying this to us? What's their responsibility? They should be checking out their supply chains and the ethics going on. And you could almost say that if you're stocking something where there's modern slavery in that supply chain, well, the Waitrose and the Sainsbury's and the Tesco's, that looks really bad on you because you're supplying this. This is almost like if you're the drug dealer and not the drug taker, the consumer taking it off the shelves, but you're actually the supplier. And in any other situation, you would be being, arrested and have enforcement against you for that behavior. But at the moment, it's acceptable.
It's accepted. Like if anyone, like if it comes up in conversation, it's completely unacceptable, but it is actually for the rest of the time completely accepted. Okay, so I think this goes deep. I'm glad you said programmed because I think we are programmed. I think capitalism. Do I want to say I'm a revolutionary communist again? No. I don't want to.
I don't mind.
I don't mind either. I'm not I'm definitely not a revolutionary communist. I think a responsible person.
Yeah.
Here's what I think I think marketers don't have any influence in their business. By the time you're talking to a big business, then they really don't have any influence in their business. And I think I have zero faith that corporations are going to drive the way in being more sustainable. I justify my existence in the world as a marketer because I've always worked for small businesses and it's always been against the corporations. So literally, it's what can we eke out for my customers when the corporations are busy consuming everything. And this goes to what you said about the plastic bags. So the reason they have to provide plastic bags is because if they don't provide a mechanism for people to carry the stuff home that they don't need, they won't buy the stuff that they don't need. Heaven forbids they might go to a much more local business just for the few things that they actually need, rather than walking around a hypermarket and spending a load of money they don't have on things they don't need. I think I'm sounding like a conspiracy theorist. I'm definitely on the scale. I think it's corporate. I don't think it even makes sense to have a left-right political argument anymore. I don't think we're even suffering capitalism. No. We are suffering some weird kind of corporatism where the corporations are pulling the strings for their benefit. That's what I think goes on. So I think the whole corporate-driven ethos is we are made to feel awful about ourselves because when we feel awful about ourselves, we will buy something. And our only value to these corporations is as consumers. So this goes to smoking, for example. The great thing about smoking for the tobacco companies is that I see smoking as a form of self-harm. So how do you get people to harm themselves more? Make them feel worse about themselves. How might they feel worse about themselves? Well, if you make them stink of smoke and give them terrible lungs and blah, 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 then they'll fit. And so it's just this spiral that goes down. So that for me is the best example of what I think goes on. Is essentially we are programmed, we are pumped with messages all day, every day. And the message is essentially you'd feel better about yourself if you bought something. So this is a different level of marketing than I've ever been involved in. Because the marketing I've been involved in is here's a small business that offers services to another business, that goes on. So it absolutely isn't our fault, the state of the environment. Like if you look at whose fault it is, it's 100% the corporation's fault, 99.9%. If you look at a picture of New York, I don't know how it looks now, every light in every office building is on 24 hours a day. It's not
Yep.
necessary. You could cut that by 30% by just turning it off for a third of the day when absolutely nobody's in the building.
Yep.
Um, the biggest users of carbon on the planet are the US military. All on their own. They're using a percentage of the world's carbon. So, but what happens is this gets inverted and it gets turned on us because us being shitty environmentalists makes us feel worse, which makes us better consumers. And so the whole thing is perpetuated.
Yeah. But there is, so I am a radical optimist.
Okay,
And
good. I'm a
so,
marvelous optimist.
yeah, so I would say that yes, but also organizations, let's take an organization like Who Gives a Crap. I don't know if you've
Yes.
seen those, Martin, yet. So they are a subscription loo roll service. So they're disrupting a tiny part of the market by getting people to subscribe to get their loo rolls, not in plastic wrappings from the supermarket conveniently, but have it delivered in a totally either returnable or reusable or recyclable cardboard box. And with totally 100% recyclable bambooed loo rolls. And 50% of their profits goes to driving sanitation around the world. So, as a consumer of that, not only are you thinking, oh, well, it's all, there's no plastic here. So, I've eradicated that plastic from what was wrapped around our loo rolls historically. But also, I am helping this organization to solve the problem of sanitation around the world. Now, for me, those organizations, and they're growing fast, and it's almost, how what is it that you can facilitate to help people do better in their lives? Because if you make me feel better about my consumption, I mean, we do need loo rolls, okay? It's not kind of like
No,
a
we don't.
luxury item. Okay, we don't.
No.
But I suppose we've been programmed
Yes.
to yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So and this is another. Oh God, I sound like such a conspiracy theorist. I am a conspiracy theorist. I think about these things. We are programmed to believe that we need toilet
Loo roll.
paper. When when the pandemic hits, we need toilet paper. In large parts of the world, they don't use toilet paper at
Yeah,
all. In Asia, they use a bum gun, and that is a much more effective way of being hygienic. And there's no truck shipping anything to anyone's houses.
yeah.
There's no waste going into the toilets. So what this is a really great example of is
Mm,
a veneer placed over the top of this thing. Do you know what I mean? So it almost becomes like there's nothing we can do that doesn't actually
yeah,
end up causing more damage. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
There are,
It
but the problem is there's nothing that we can do that satisfies the profit requirements of corporations to fix this to fix the
y
situation. You know?
y yeah. But
So
there are some problems. Like, we have yesterday I interviewed, the co-founder of Too Good To Go, so there's a big food waste problem. So I'll be interested to hear what you think about that. The food waste that we have. Now, of course, this goes back to those big hyper supermarkets having things that go out of date, things are too good to go. So what they're doing is reusing, making sure that this food doesn't go out of date and getting it so that it is used. Whether it's a local bakery that their things have gone off. I mean, it shows us on one side that we have a ridiculous overproduction of food, not only in which of course is an enormous part of our footprint, but not only in the way that food is developed and cultivated, but actually how much we are wasting, how much just goes to waste. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, it's like 6.6 billion tons of food waste, or 10 million tons of waste every year just in the UK. So what's Too Good To Go is doing is that this food, and it's something like 70% of that food is edible. we're wasting it. It's going to landfill. And it is totally edible. So what they're doing is redistributing that food to food banks, to various organizations, so that that food isn't going to waste, so that it is being utilized. Of course, it doesn't solve the problem of the overproduction at the other end. There's still work to be doing there, but at least it's stopping it. It's almost like the problems we're creating are creating industries that solve the problems that we've created.
Yes. And I think this is what's going on. I think about food, I think the industrialization of food is an abomination.
Mm.
I think I don't know, but I'd like to know. I need to do the work. But I'm pretty sure that with the increased industrialization of food, and this has only gone on in the last 50 or 60 years. I remember putting milk bottles
Okay.
out, and the milkman would come and take
Absolutely.
the empties away. And, so I think
Yeah.
this idea that we're more responsible than future generations is just junk, definitely.
Rubbish.
If my grandmother wanted chicken for dinner, she was going to have to kill that chicken. And if she was going to get the opportunity to kill a chicken, she had to grow the chicken. She had to, do you know what I mean? She was
Yeah.
in her environment. So what was the point of that? The point of that is the industrialization of food is an abomination.
Mm.
I think the messaging needs to be different. I'll tell you what I think the messaging needs to be. Um, Food waste is a crime. How could
Yeah.
it possibly, when people are hungry,
Yeah. Starving to death.
when people are hungry within a mile of a supermarket and they're throwing food away, that
Yeah.
should be a criminal crime. You should be able to call a policeman and then come and arrest people. But that again is another indication of just what people are prepared to accept.
Mm.
That is
Because they're not
just another
aware.
example.
Yeah, but
But
they're
then
not
they
aware.
are
They're not
aware, but they're aware for like
educated.
20 minutes because Richard Attenborough is talking about something. And then
Yeah.
next Thursday, they're
Yeah.
back there putting a TV
Exactly.
on their credit card. So,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's going to take a lot of reprogramming, but it's got to start with that marketing constant messaging that we talked about, at the beginning of the conversation, that we're being bombarded, that we're being all the time, the noise, the entertainment, all of this, normalizing, absolutely normalizing, with the occasional tidbit of, oh, maybe I need to be concerned about that, and then all of a sudden, the mind's off and doing something else. We need to change that narrative so that there is, and we also as marketers need to understand how to drive influence, because it isn't, you can't just keep talking doom and gloom. You can't just, that is, people just shut down,
yeah,
they just shut down. So we've got to make this fun. We've got to make it, get them involved. And it's got to, this is where I see a lot of opportunity for marketers, once educated, to really start thinking about driving a different agenda. It's all of us as responsible communicators to do that. But marketing's role, and you're right, in some organizations, the marketers have no influence at all uh, in the boardroom, and that's why we put that plan together, as to, there's an action plan we put together, the Sustainable Marketer Action Plan, which is, regardless of where you sit in the organization, these are the things you need to do. Initially, you need to drive the education inwards, so that you are really fully aware. You need to stretch your marketing thinking to understand a different landscape that you're now operating in. If you've been to business school, if you've studied marketing, you'll have studied various models and the 5 forces. Well, now we've got, climate change, a 6th force, and not just climate change, the environment, and this responsible lens that we need to apply to everything that we do and consider. And so marketers need to stretch their thinking, reskill their minds, take it inward, so that they understand the landscape, they understand the realities of what's going on. And then they need to also think about, if it is their organization, what is going on within our organization? Do we have a purpose? Are we aligned with our purpose? Is it just a another bullshit statement sat on a board meeting wall or on a annual report, or is it actually the heart of what it is that we're about? Are we about making an impact? Are we about driving just profits at any cost? To have a kind of reflection as to, now I know this stuff, who am I working for and who am I helping to promote? Who am I as the marketer, that lens between the outside world and the inside world? Am I just spinning the line? Am I just selling a version of the truth, or am I just actually talking about what it is that we do? And if you're selling a version of the truth and you don't feel comfortable about that, then it's time to either start affecting change inwards, upwards to that board as much as you can by building a business case and showcasing to them and saying, look, here's the evidence. And if they still don't listen, then it's a case of taking your voice somewhere else.
Okay, good. I wonder how much they believe it.
Who?
The corporations. Because they will tell the story. We've been talking for an hour and 20 minutes. Are we still good?
Yeah, I've got a podcast so I need to jump off in about 10 minutes.
Okay, super cool. All right. So I wonder, it's a little bit like Boris Johnson's COVID parties. The issue with that is they clearly didn't believe that COVID represented the risk that they were telling the rest of the world that it did, or else they wouldn't have broken their own rules. And I wonder if it's the same thing for these corporations, where there wouldn't be such thing as planned obsolescence and all of these things. Like when I was a kid, we had two TVs. We had a black and white TV until I was about 12. And then we had another TV, and that was in my parents' house for, I don't know, 12, 13 years, 6, 7 years after I'd left home. Now, you replace your TV every 3 years. Everyone does it. So if they actually believed that this environmental damage was as damaging and as important as they did, then surely they wouldn't be behaving in this way. I don't have there's a book called something optimism, planned, tried optimism, something learned optimism is what it's called.
Okay.
And in the middle, it's got this test, and he spends like the 5 chapters before talking about how scientific this test is, and the 5 chapters afterwards talking about how scientific it is. So you really believe it's a scientific test. And I did this test, and I came out as marvelously optimistic. But I think maybe I've become more cynical since then. So that's in response to you saying that you are what sort of optimist are you?
A radical optimist.
Radical optimist. Okay, good.
Optimist.
I think the change will have to go down, up. And I think we have to change the messaging. And I think it has to be not we're killing the planet, because we're not. I think it's definitely the corporations. It needs to be the corporations are killing the planet and they are killing us. Because instances like how we are living is not good for us. So instances of cancer, of suicide, of depression, of anxiety, all of these things are going through the roof. So that needs to be the message, that what you're buying and what you're buying into is affecting your health and your likelihood. I've got a plan to change the world. Do you want to hear my plan?
Go on.
It's called Spare to Share. So along with this, them making us feel bad about ourselves, so we are better consumers, they also drive this scarcity narrative that we know from Mr. Cialdini, or Dr. Cialdini, is a key factor in marketing. So it's this, make people feel bad about themselves, convince them that they need more or they're not going to get enough, is driving this situation. So my mission, I haven't done a thing about it yet, is to push back and let people know they are enough and they have enough. And actually, if they consider that, they will realize that they have spare to share. Because what I know is I've never felt better in my life than when I've been helping somebody who is genuinely in need of my help. So it becomes that kind of a situation. So do you need to go to work 5 days a week if you can earn enough money to sustain yourself on 4 days and invest that other day in supporting someone who genuinely needs your help? That would be the question, based on the fact that if you shut yourself off from this media-generated need and this media-generated anxiety, then you can actually start to feel better about yourselves. For me,
Yeah.
it's definitely us against the corporations. And there are other little things you can do, like packaging, for example. Like, I don't leave the shop with packaging
No.
because it's not going to be my problem. Like, if I
Yeah.
buy a bottle of water, I'm going to drink that bottle of water in the next half an hour. That bottle
Yeah.
of water has served me for 30 minutes. It might have served the corporation for 7 or 8 months. So what I do is I consume the water, and I can't take it back to the retailer, but I can make it the retailer's problem. Like, I am not taking that problem away from you. So,
Yeah.
and I do this all the time. If I buy a
Yep.
computer, then I will unpack it in the shop and
Yep.
I will leave the packaging, and they're astounded. But these are
Yep.
like little things that people can do. But I
Yep.
think the messaging needs to hit much nearer home. Actually, these practices, they might be damaging the planet. Nobody's attached enough to the planet to care. It's damaging you and your
Yeah.
children. Like, and
Yeah.
not in 30 years when global warming takes effect and there's no sea anymore.
Yeah.
Today, the shit they
Yeah.
are convincing you to put in your children is affecting your children's well-being.
Yeah.
That I think needs to be the message. I'll get off my
Yeah.
pedestal now.
Yeah. No, and I agree with you, Martin. I think it is all about making it personal. I think it's all about making it understood and relevant and contextual.
Yes.
It is the context of, because this is the problem when we talk about net zero and targets and things like that. It's just so, what does that even mean? Businesses don't even know what it means. Somebody just going to the supermarket and thinking, well, if I buy that product or that product, I have no idea what difference that makes. But if there was a great example of a council who was talking about the fact that they were putting cycle lanes in, and they wanted that, isn't it great that we've put these cycle lanes in, and these cycle lanes are really going to help us with our um, carbon negative impact, and look at this reduction that we're doing. But actually, the really, people don't care about whether or not the council's carbon reduction is on track or whatever. What they care about is whether or not these cycle lanes are either going to help them to get to work faster, or they're going to be a nuisance. And so the
Yes.
message has to come back down to the person to say, and these are going to help you get to work faster,
Or in a
or
more
get to
healthy way.
school, or in a
You can
healthier
invest
way.
half an hour into your
Exactly.
health on the way to school. Yeah, 100%.
Exactly. So
I,
so it's how it's that, always bringing it back to the person, which is the role of the marketer.
yes.
That is where we can make this contextual, and we can educate. And if we're feeling good, and the stuff that we're communicating is transparent, is authentic, isn't a version of the truth, but is. And if we are empowered and educated to say, well, hang on a minute, that can't be right. That packaging cannot be 100% recyclable. Are we sure we can say that? Becoming a bit of a pain in the arse to the organization and asking the thorny questions is what we created a sustainable marketer manifesto, and it's got three aspects to it. And the third point, the first one is, commit to driving yourself to really understand and educate yourself about the landscape. The second point is then commit to educating others, be they your customers, your colleagues, your senior leadership team, whoever it is. You have that responsibility now. You're educated to drive their knowledge to them. And then the third commitment is to be really courageous and to call out any practices that you do not think are ethical, that align, that are honest, that are truthful, and to have those difficult conversations, to have the conversation, to be bold and courageous to do that. And that is part of our manifesto. And we give people a challenge. They don't just do the manifesto. They've then got to do 100 points to showcase that we've gamified it a little bit, so that people get educated even from just signing that manifesto, to say, well, I've now read this, done that, watched that podcast, looked at this video. You're going to feel more educated about, and more inspired and encouraged to be that bit of a nuisance. You don't have to do it in a kind of confrontational way, but you do have to start asking those questions about, is that right?
Yes.
Can we say that? How can that be? Who's asking those questions? Are you a marketer that is just blindly putting out any message that you've been told to, without thinking about it, or just believing the greenwash, the lies, because that's what greenwashing is. It's just lying, the
Yep.
lies that are being put out there? Or are you actually savvier and a little bit more educated to say, hang on a minute, how can that be? You know, can are we sure about this? And just pushing back a little bit more. And if it becomes too problematic, then they're not the organization you need to be working with if you feel uncomfortable about the work that they're doing.
Good.
And if all the marketers took away the voices from the lies, if
They'd be
they actually
replaced
said,
immediately.
they may be replaced. They
Yeah.
may be replaced immediately, but if we get to all 10.6 million marketers, and if we educate the new marketers coming through that this is responsible marketing and that's what marketing needs to do, it's not just about more, more, more. It's about, hang on a minute, is this ethical? Is this responsible? Are we telling the truth? Where has that been manufactured? Is that supply chain nice and clean and hygienic? Do we, have we done the bells and checks? If that is the new sustainable way of marketing that we move forward with, then effectively is a powerful shift.
Okay, I think we've just had an amazing example. I don't know if you saw that M&M's went woke. Did you see this?
No.
So they've got characters for the different M&Ms,
Oh
and
yeah.
they went woke. So they have flatter shoes now. They look less sexy. There's an anxious M&M. All this goes on. And what's interesting for me about that is I watch Russell Brand. I don't know if you watch Russell Brand,
I
but what
do.
it did him, it gave him the opportunity to go, okay, you're doing this supposedly nice thing over here. What about the slaves that are clearly involved in your supply chain in
In your
Africa?
chocolate
So
supply chain. Yeah.
I think it's interesting like that. Okay, we answered the first question. You are clearly qualified to talk to us about sustainable marketing. Well done. Thank you for that. We didn't really get to who you work with and how you add value to their lives, but I suspect that's to do with your manifesto. The third question is recommendations. I kind of think we've given people a sense of that. The only two last questions are what should people read and who can you throw under the bus who might endure a conversation like this with me?
I would say you can read Sustainable Marketing, How to
Oh,
Drive
who wrote
Profits with
that?
Purpose. Just little old me and a couple of friends.
And where is
Um,
that
I
available?
It's
Don't say Amazon.
available. You can get it in bookshop.org.
Okay,
So, yeah, that is a B Corp. So, you're giving back to the world, um, and to local community bookshops, if that's happening. You can also buy it through the Bloomsbury platform, so Bloomsbury Publishing. And if you just type in Sustainable Marketing Bloomsbury, a link will come up. But if there's show notes for this or anything, I can share all those links with you, Martin. Another
excellent.
great book, I think, is Greener Marketing by John Grant. Oh, how do I do? Where
Excellent.
is the
You're going the
camera?
wrong way, I think. Shall I make you
That's it,
roll?
John Grant. There you go. That's fine.
Yeah.
John Grant, Greener Marketing. And John has been a guest on our podcast a couple of times. He's they call him the green guy in advertising land, but he's for decades he's been championing plastic truth telling, purpose setting, tree planting, economy circling, all of those aspects. I think, of course, The Future We Choose by, again, sorry, I've got so many books. The Future We Choose by Christy. I'm going the wrong way, am I? Yeah, okay. By,
There we go.
Christian. Yeah, there we go.
Figueres, is
Can you
that?
see? Yeah, Figueres. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So, her, and then of course, I think we've been talking about this disconnected aspect, why you're depressed and how to find hope. Lost Connections by Johan Hari, and pretty much anything by Johan Hari. I just think is terrific.
Brilliant. Excellent. So I will list those. If you could give me anything else you'd like to list in the description below, I will include that, of course. I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I hope I haven't been too challenging. I think about this all the
Not
time.
at all.
I can't talk. I can't find people to talk to about these things. I do think we have a responsibility as marketers. I do think we are effective communicators and we should be communicating our values. I do think we should get serious about what our values actually are and cut
Yep.
out as much as possible all of this signaling. Um,
Yep.
I think, it sounds to me like we're working both ends. I'm working top up, you're working top down. So that's cool. I will see you in the middle. So the only question is then, who can you introduce me to who will endure to have a conversation like this. Have you enjoyed the conversation as
I've
well?
enjoyed the conversation. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's good
Excellent.
to kind of have to have a bit of a conversation that's free flowing and a bit ranty and but also informative and useful. So so hopefully it's useful for anybody listening to to enjoy it as well. I mean, what kind of conversation do you want to have? One around sustainable marketing or marketing generally? What about what about having a conversation with Abigail, um, because she is, I'm just going to grab her book actually, The Whole Marketer. She's coming at it, and I think you'd enjoy that conversation. I'm just trying to find her book. Bear with me 1 minute.
Okay.
It's in, yeah, here we go. Yeah, I'll introduce you to Abigail Dixon. Again, I'm just going here.
Excellent.
Abigail, where am I going? The wrong way. There we go. Abigail, so weird, this camera. Abigail Dixon, The Whole Marketer, How to Become a Successful and Fulfilled Marketer. And what Abby is a coach. She's a marketer, but she also is as a coach. And it says, at last, an author who understands that marketers need to develop themselves as people as well as practitioners. So it's all about kind of the development of, doing the inner work
Yes.
as a marketer so that you can be a better marketer. And it's
Fantastic.
she goes into a lot of detail. I think you'd really enjoy having a conversation about her because she's very candid and smart woman.
Excellent. And the cool thing about asking this question is I don't know where it's going to go. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's really cool. Is there anyone else, do you think, who might endure to have a conversation with me?
Well, it depends. I mean, what else do you want to have? Do you
If
want to have? Is marketing focused?
it's marketing and sales and being more successful in business focused, but I'm also
Uh,
interested in this sustainable thing. So if there is somebody who will talk to me about sustainable, then I'd be interested to have another conversation about that.
yeah. Well, you could have a conversation with my co-author, Gemma Butler. She would potentially be interested, um, and yeah, so I can introduce you to her.
Fantastic.
And
Excellent.
and and are we off record now as
No, we
well?
are still recording. This is like a
Oh,
trailer
okay.
for who might be coming up in the future.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
So who else could be coming up in the future? Um, oh, and a guy, Russ Avery, he's pretty interesting. He's doing some good stuff in regenerative business. So again, he's an agency, digital marketing agency, but focused on regenerative business. So working with businesses, helping them with their brand strategy to be more regenerative, so that it isn't just about, so that's that kind of circular business.
Excellent.
So yes, so yeah, so Russ is doing some really interesting stuff. I'm sure he'd be interested in having a conversation as well.
Fantastic. And can I ask you, like Warren did with us, he put together like a little LinkedIn
Yeah,
introduction. Can I ask you to do that? That would be brilliant.
yeah, sure.
Michelle, I've absolutely loved this whole conversation. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate how busy you are and how much good you are doing. And I really appreciate that you've been here to share some of that with my tiny but growing audience. Thank you so
That's
much.
fantastic. No, it's a pleasure. Lovely to meet you, Martin. Keep up the
Okay.
great work, and your um, oh, sorry, yeah, keep up the great work and all that. What did you say you were? You're a
Revolutionary
communist,
communist,
you're
marvelously
revolutionary
optimistic.
communism. Yeah, and all of that. Yeah, brilliant.
Okay, super cool. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Take
I'll
care.
see you again soon.
Bye.
Bye.